Okay everybody, welcome back. In today's video we're going to be calibrating this table saw, which is my new table saw. So I have to set it up for it to cut accurate and perfect the way I want it to cut. Make sure your table saw is unplugged when you're doing this. I also have a safety pin for the power switch. Even though it's unplugged, it doesn't really matter. It's just a good habit to put in that safety pin so that you can't accidentally hit that in case you do forget to unplug the machine. So first thing I'm going to do is, to start this, is raise the blade all the way up because I need to get this off. So there's a little pin in the back. Take the hose off. And just rock it back and forth like that, and the whole guard comes off. Next thing I need to do is check to see if my miter slot is actually parallel to the blade. So for that, I'm going to use a combination square. Okay, so now I have it in a little bit closer. The first thing I'm going to do is take a pencil and just mark this tooth right here, because that is the tooth that I'm going to reference from here to the miter slot, then rotate it back 180 degrees and reference it again there, so that we know if there's any run out at all from here to here. Then the table itself has to be adjusted so that the actual arbor and everything of the motor is parallel to this slot. Otherwise, you'll never get a perfect cut. And a lot of times during shipping, that can happen. So I just make a little mark right there on that tooth so that I know exactly where I'm going to be set up to rotate it. Next thing I like to do is we're going to take our combination square. Make sure you're using a good known combination square. This is from Igaging. I'll link it in the description. I'm going to place this in the miter slot right here at the front. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this until I contact the tip of the tooth on the carbide blade. I'm not going to put pressure on it where it's going to move. I don't want to bend the blade. I want this to just nick this a little bit so that I can hear the blade. Just a little scraping, just a slight scraping. So I'll tighten this up, go back. You can hear that just slight scraping. So now I'll rotate this to the back. That's what the pencil mark is for. And I'm getting that slight scraping noise the same. Just the way I was in the front. Okay, so we're good. We don't have to adjust the table. Now, if I did have to make an adjustment, there are 4 bolts underneath that you have to loosen, and you have to actually kind of shift the table a little bit, and then until you get it perfectly aligned, and then tighten everything up. Make sure that I have my blade at 90 degrees, because I can't rely on the gauge yet down there on the wheel, because I didn't set it up. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a good combination square and I'm going to check to see if I'm in fact at 90. It may not be perfect because this is also recessed a little. So what I'm going to do is raise this plate up so that I can get that level with the table and there's no rocking. You see how there's rocking right there? We don't want that. We want to eliminate that and adjust the plate height. Turning that screw. Now I went too high, I need to lower it down. Still a little too high. Okay, right there, that's where I want to be. Now I can see the back is out also. I'm just going to turn that screw until that set screw brings it up where I'm not catching, right there. Okay, so now I have it where I think I want it. So I'm going to move that out of the way. I'm also going to check it with this Wixey digital angle gauge. I've had good luck with this in the past at my old table saws, so I'm going to be using it again. I'm also going to link these tools in the description. So I'm going to turn it on, and then I'm going to zero it out by hitting the 0 button. Now it's 0 and flat to the table, and now I'm just going to take it and I'm gonna bring it to the saw blade and magnetize it. And I'm at 89.9 right now. So 89.9 is not good enough. I'd like to see it at 90. Okay, so basically you should be set or be able to set your blade to 90. If not, on this particular saw, and make sure if you don't have this kind of saw and you're just following this for calibration purposes, then you should refer to your owner's manual. Or even if you do have this saw, refer to the owner's manual so that you can see that in here on the angle stop, there is a set screw, which I'm trying to do one-handed and film this at the same time. You loosen this set screw. I can only go to 89.9, but I want to go to 90 because I want everything perfect. So I'm going to loosen that set screw just enough. One more little turn. And now I have that loose. I'm actually able to move the saw from the 89.9 position to the 90. So then I'll go back, and once I set it to 90, I'll go back and tighten up that set screw and recheck it. Now for 45, if you go to set to 45, there is another set screw back here that you loosen and do the same procedure. And now I can slowly crank until I get to 90 right there. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna leave it like that. I'm going to lock the pulley in place by turning the knob. This way I know nothing's gonna move. Then I'll come back over to this side of the machine here, and I'm still checking. Now we're at 90. And now I can set the set screws back, tighten them up. Give them one little crank. Don't go overboard tightening these set screws because you can strip them out. You just want to go tight enough where they're not going to move. Okay, I'm happy with that. Come back and check. I'm still on 90. And now what I'll do is loosen the pulley. And you can see the machine, as soon as I start, will light up again. So now I'm cranking it and cranking it. I'm down to 86. I'm going to go back. I'm going to hit the positive stop at 90 and check right there, 90. I'll lock the blade back in place. This way we can continue the rest of our calibrations. If I turn this up, I hope the camera can pick up that that's 90 right there. Shut that off. And I'm still going to go back and double check it with a good known square. And I can see that I'm dead on right there. I have no light coming in between the blade and the back. Now I'm going to quickly remove the plate so that I can adjust the riving knife to the blade. Or at least check first to see if it's adjusted. Because if it's out of adjustment, you have to adjust it so that it's in line with the blade, so that when you're pushing material through, the riving knife is not fighting you and actually pushing the wood either against or away from the fence. So the first thing I'm going to do is position the riving knife in place. Push that all the way down. Okay, and then I'm going to lock it in, just like that. And then I'm going to check it first with a good straight edge and see if it's aligned with the blade. And I'm going to try not to hit the tooth. I'm going to position it where I'm across the blade and not on a carbide tooth. And I got to tell you, that looks dead on right there, so I don't have to adjust it. It's very good. Okay, so I'm not moving that. However, if I was to move it, there is a screw here and here. It says right in the manual. You'll loosen that up, and then you'll take a smaller Allen wrench. You go right in the back. There's two set screws right next to it, and you will adjust those in and out, and that moves the riving knife side to side to line it up with the blade, and then you tighten everything up. We don't have to do that, so we're going to move on. Start to adjust the rib fence, and the way I want to do that is to check it with the miter slot. There is going to be a little run out at the back because you don't want it to be perfectly aligned. You may want about 1/1000th of an inch out, so that when you're coming to the end of the cut, if this is towed in instead of towed out slightly, what it'll do is it'll force it against the riving knife. That can create a pinching with the wood and cause a kickback or a serious problem for you. So you got to be careful. So what I'm going to do is take my combination square, position the fence here just like this, touch it. Okay. Now, because when you lock the rib fence on any of these, like the Biesemeyer style, any cabinet saw, they tend to, when you lock them in, they tend to pull out this way a little bit. So even if it's, when you loosen it up, it goes this way. When you tighten it up, the toe out will go back straight to where you want. So now that I'm close, I can actually loosen up my gauge. I'm going to bring it here to the front, and I'm going to make sure I touch. I'm touching exact, and now I'm going to lock it in place. Okay, locked in place. Now I'll tighten it up a little bit more. Double check again. Okay, and right on the fence. And now what I want to do is just run it along here a little bit. Check it here. Still good. Check it at the back. And I am perfect. And the only way that I'm really going to know if I'm still good is after we make a cut and measure the preciseness of that cut. Now I'm going to check to see if it's 90 degrees to the table, and then we can adjust these to raise and lower it to make it perfect. I think this is a good angle, and so what I'm going to do is take my smaller square here. I'm going to position it up against the fence here. Okay, now I can see that I'm not quite perfect. Not quite. I may have a thousandth of an inch out at the top. And that's close at the back too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this in place just like this. And what I'm going to do is I need to bump it up this way. So I'm going to loosen both of these thumb wheels. And if they're a little too tight, you can just take your little channel locks and just loosen them a little bit. So I want to raise this a little bit this way so that I can make it hit the top of the square. So what I'm going to do is turn this screw down to tighten it, and that's going to raise it to the 90 mark for me. Almost there, and I'm going to hit it right there. So that's where we're at. Now I'm dead on where I need to be. Check it at the back again. That's perfect in the back. So now what I'll do is I'll keep this in place and I'll tighten this up. Same thing with this, tighten it up like that. And I'm going to hold this set screw so that it doesn't move. And I'm going to tighten it just like that. Good. Now I know I'm good. I go back and check it again. Sometimes when you tighten things up, they have a tendency to move, and it did not. That is absolutely perfect to my eyes. So we can move on. So what is actually left to do besides get this out of the way and put back the plate and then the riving knife. Put the plate back in. The saw is still unplugged. Okay, have the saw set all the way up so that I can position the riving knife back on with the dust collection, the dust hood, and that's it. All right, good. Put this dust collection back on here. Now the only thing left to do is set up to make a cut. Now I had set this when I put the saw together, the tape measure. Well, I'm just going to position the piece close to where I want it. I have some sample boards that I want to cut. And I'm going to start with this longer piece here. Have a nice straight edge on both sides. It's machined pretty straight. Pick the absolute straightest piece here. These are just scrap boards. It should be 5.5, which they are exactly 5.5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it to 4.5, cut off an inch. Protective equipment, plug in the saw, obviously. Okay, dust collection ready to go, and something that I really missed was having the remote control for the dust collection. This came with two, so let's get this going, have it locked in place, and let's make a cut. Now you'll notice I left the blade in the highest position. That was for a specific reason. I normally never do that. However, I wanted to check to see if there's any run out in the highest position. If I'm cutting something a little thicker, if this is going to wobble and move at all. So I'm going to check the run out real fast with that, make sure that I don't have any scooping in my cut, and see if it's perfectly straight. And then I'm going to make another cut. I'm going to move it over about an inch, make another cut, and then I'm going to lower the blade, all the way down before I make that cut. And then we'll check it again. Get a nice smooth cut on the pine. And I have a pretty nice straight cut here. It's Pretty good, pretty good. Okay, looking all right so far. So now what I'm going to do is take a measurement. I have 4.5 here at the front, and I have 4.5 at the back. Now I'm just going to make another cut and move this over to 4 inches. Lock that in place. And now this time what I'm going to do is lower the blade down and see if I get a little bit better dust collection too. Because it looks like at the back of the saw, it is kind of open back there. Okay, we want it about there. Smooth. See what we have now. Check it again. I always like to take a look also down the board. Alright, looking good there. Straight. 4 inches, so the tape measure is actually on because I set it to this blade. And we got 4 right there at the back. Okay, so far we're doing good. So now the next thing is going to be to quickly set up the miter gauge, which is pretty easy. For the miter gauge, this will be the last part of the setup right here, since we know that all of our rip cuts are good, everything's set up there. The miter gauge has these little rubber like cams inside there. It has a round metal piece like a washer that goes inside of this T-slot right here. So I'm just going to put this in just like this, get this in there on the table. And now I'm going to wiggle it back and forth to make sure there's no rocking, which there isn't. That means that all my cams are adjusted. And the way you would adjust these cams anyway is to take your Allen key and turn them from the top, and that cam will actually move and expand and contract to make these tighter and looser so that you can move smoothly without any play. So I have that set perfect. And so now what I'm going to do is take my TSO triangle, because now I want to set this 90 degrees to the blade. We have to make sure that the 0 setting is actually, in fact, zeroed out and 90. So first I'm going to move this stop block piece out of the way. I'm going to put my TSO MTR-18 triangle on here, and this is absolutely phenomenal for doing something like this. So I got it against there, and I'm going to bring it in, and I'm going to touch my blade, but I'm going to make sure that when I hit the blade, I'm not hitting any of the carbide teeth, because that can throw it off. So I'm just going to put it right up against this. This is set really good right here. So now what I'm going to do is, normally if it wasn't set good, I would loosen this up, and then I would be able to move these set screws on the gauge and then tighten it back up. So I have it at 0 right now, and there are no gaps, and it looks perfect. The only thing left to do now is to make a cut, make a cross cut, and see how it comes out. If it's 90, check it with a square. Let's see how that came out. Let's see if I can get this in the camera here. Right there. Maybe drowned out a little bit from the light. Oh, that is dead on. Can I get this in there? I don't know if I can. You may not be able to see too much. Try to hold it up against here. Maybe I'll hold it up against my red shirt so that if there's any gap coming through, you'll be able to see it, because against the white wall, you're not going to be able to see anything. But there is nothing. So that is dead on. So we're good. Like I said, if there was any adjustment to do with that, you would loosen up this knob and you would get it into the 0 position, and then you would 0 it out on the gauge and then tighten up the set screws. But obviously, this is just quick, like reference guide to give you a kind of an understanding on what to do. Always refer to the owner's manual, because that is what's going to really give you the details that if your saw is out, the way you can adjust it will be in that book. Now, a lot of the stuff that I did, I adjusted pretty much everything except for the miter gauge, because I didn't have to, and I didn't have to shift the table. You may have to do that, so you're definitely going to need your owner's manual to do so. So definitely make sure you read and understand and follow the instructions in the manual. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you hit that picture of a notification bell, and hit the subscribe button also so that you don't miss anything. When I upload new videos, which is on a frequent basis, you will have access to everything. I also have everything grouped into playlists as well. So if you go on my channel, you can see specifically the playlist of what you need to watch so that you can just go ahead and go right to it and not have to search for it. All right, guys, thanks for joining me, and I will see you next time.